What's up guys, St. Christopher here. In this video, we're gonna do a full track breakdown of my new song called The Vision. We're gonna take a look at arrangement, mixing, as well as some other tips and tricks that I like to do in my projects. Let's get into it. All right, so I got the project file open here. We're gonna start it off from the top at the intro. So I have a 4 on the floor kick drum running here. And then a first kind of look at the piano melody that I use throughout the song. And then we're looking at some layers from that same MIDI from the piano, and then some effects. So the intro goes like this. So pretty self-explanatory. This piano melody came from a splice pack that I kind of messed around with a couple notes. I transcribed it out of a key that a couple semitones higher, changed up some notes, and then ran it through a bunch of different synths. So this is obviously that piano sound that we heard from the beginning. And then I took that MIDI through a bunch of Kontakt stuff, I'm sure. I'm definitely a Kontakt person, which I feel like a lot of people are. So you can kind of hear that piano creeping in as well because I didn't unsolo it. But this layer sounds like that. It's kind of like a syncopated, plucky string kind of thing. And then some obvious, effects and other stuff like that. Which is a combination of like a down sweep, a deep kind of drone that I had laying around. Yeah, so then into the verse section, off rip with the drums, bringing in a little bit more percussion. Kind of full kick and clap there. No hat yet. A little bit of like stop and go kind of percussion bits that come in just to kind of fill in the groove a little bit. And then this kind of like alien percussion thing that I made a while back from one of my sample packs. Very good for like support percussion. It's got like a stereo effect going side to side, which is kind of cool. This full verse section, I had like a deep piano stab right on the root note. This song is in D minor. So it's very eerie, very like spooky, kind of what I was going for this song. For the synths, I think I added another layer, same MIDI, sweeping in a little bit. Which complements the string layer. And then obviously some more effects building up, usual stuff. All right, so moving into the breakdown section. So bringing us into this breakdown section is this fill. It's really just a combination of a bunch of crazy samples that I chopped up and a bunch of drum fills. Very off the wall, kind of wild fill, but you kind of have some fun with these and, kind of find something that kind of sticks out. So that's what the breakdown sounds like, starting from the top with the drums. Really just a couple kick drums here and there. Just for the main downbeats. And then everything else is really just happening in this top loop kind of group. Crashes, hi-hat comes in, and then a shaker loop. And then this top loop is really giving most of the groove. And then this is like a support snare that kind of adds into the clap within this top loop was kind of weak. So I went in and kind of just added something on top of it to kind of make it stick out and punch a little bit more. Nothing crazy. So here's where the piano jumps up an octave. Very high register. I think I just ran this through a bunch of echo and reverb a little bit. I've been really liking echo and delays more than reverb for certain kind of plucky sounds like this. Just adds a little bit more character without just sounding washed out. And then this sample below is really just like a cinematic like string chug that I added underneath and kind of messed with. So it goes na 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 na. So it kind of like jumps up an octave and then goes down. So going into the synth group, this main synth layer comes in. This is from Serum. I was using a lot of like orchestral kind of string sounds and piano, so I wanted something a little bit synthetic in there. This is that same string layer, just kind of fades in a little bit. And then I added this other tuck back kind of string layer. It's turned down quite a bit. It's kind of fluttery in the back of it, of the listener's ear, so just kind of cool. And then that pit crush layer. So down here, those big bass like brams or stabs, whatever you want to call them. I had a specific kind of sound that I had in mind when I was making this bass, so kind of wanted that high resonance sound. That was that, and then I just added like an auto pan or something like this on this stutter layer, just to give it that kind of wavy sound. And then together they sound like this. So one's very like mono-ish, and then this kind of like stuttery flutter layer is off to the sides, a little bit more stereo. That wraps up the synth. So now getting into the vocals. This vocal loop is really just a contact loop. I think it's Vocalize from Heaviosity. Fantastic library for this kind of stuff. So get into the vocal. This vocal was from Splice, of course. The Rin pack, I don't even know if that was the actual pack. The main layer, I wanted to keep relatively still intact. I didn't want to mess with it too much. I think it was just a little bit of compression, saturation, OTT for some sparkle. Moving on, manipulator, just 25%, and a dropped formant, 5 semitones. Kind of gives it a little bit of an affected sound, which, like I said, I wanted to keep it relatively stock, kind of unaffected. Just a little bit though. So de-essing chorus, and then some obvious EQ as well. So from there, we move on to this lower layer. This is the low layer, same compression, same OTT saturation for the most part. And then I went 100% dry wet on the lower formant manipulator level, and went with Morph VST, a little bit of that, to kind of give this lower formant layer. It's classic for layering underneath really high sung vocals and very like polished vocals. Adds a good layer underneath. And this vocoded layer was pretty cool. I actually mapped the vocoder to the MIDI of the synths, so that main layer like da 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 da. So I mapped the vocoder to that, and it gave this really cool like kind of robotic sound. I was super hyped on that. I was like, that's fucking cool. So, and then we have an obvious vocal sweep. Kind of bringing in the vocals a little bit. So the entire group sounds like this. from there, we're going to move on to the build-up. The build-up all together sounds like this. Starting right off with the drums. Super basic. So yeah, kick drum coming in here and there, crash hats, and then same kind of percussion that's going on in the break. Took out this top loop for the build up, and then brought in this break, this build up snare, which is kind of driving the whole thing. And then a little bit of perc loop as well. That about wraps it up for the drums. And then the synths are pretty much the same as the break, just took some things away. I think I jumped this up an octave, that serum layer. To kind of mimic the piano. And then, yeah, took out the fatter bass layer to make room for the sub drop and the bass line, or the bass line preview that comes in to preview what the drop has in store. And then for the vocal, I just repeated here. And then I think some pitch effect, which happened on the sample itself. Yeah, just ever so slightly, only 2 semitones. All right, cool. So then for the bass buildup, so typically in buildups with like bass music and house music and stuff like that, or at least bass house music, you want to try and preview what you have, coming up in the build from the drop. And really, you just want to, maybe EQ it a little bit differently. Keep the low end out, because low end obviously means full, full blast. Save all that for the drop. This little sample is more of like an echoey kind of, side to side stereo effect. And then I reversed it here. This is more of like a stereo sides, kind of high end layer. Turn way down. And this is obviously the main layer. And gain automation, reverb, high pass, low pass, kind of doing its thing. Setting up for the drop. And then here, obviously, your major effects that you would find in a build-up. That about does it for the build. So now we are going to move into the drop. Starting it off with the drums. Standard house drums. 4 on the floor. Kick and clap. This is one of my own kicks. Snares just a combination of a bunch of stuff processed. And then crash. Hats is like a layered hat, a bunch of different hats together, 2 or 3. Shaker loop came back for an appearance, as well as the background alien loop. Drum fills to kind of fill stuff in. For my drums, I like to keep it pretty basic. I don't really like to do anything crazy. All right, so moving down to the basses. So the way I set up, at least organize this kind of stuff, is I have like a bass group with all of the basses, like bass lines, bass samples. And then I have what I call drop cuts. This stuff is like little glitches and string samples and all the little stuff in between the main kind of bass rhythms or bass lines and whatever you want to call that. So just the drop group itself alone sounds like this. So that's kind of like the first half of the A section, going into the second half, which is almost the same except for this C section here. Your typical A, B, A, C kind of flow for the first 8 drops, and then the first 8 bars, and then variation in the B section. To kind of drill down into these layers really quick, the main layer here, whole lot of mid, I named it. It's a little bit dissonant after all these are kind of layers are kind of put in, but it was very mono. It was very structural, kind of holding it down for everything else that's kind of layered on top of it, which is why I kind of fell in love with it from the jump. I tried to change it a bunch, copied the project like 3 or 4 times, just couldn't get away from this sound, and then I layered it with some other kind of wonky sounds. This next layer, this phasey stab layer, this is the main layer that you're hearing most of the tonality from. Pretty distorted. It's got a lot of tonality to it. So for my basses, like I said, I try and keep it as simple as possible. So soft clip, glue compressor, OTT, little bit, saturation, mid-side EQ, Voxengo MSED, kind of taking out a little bit of that side. I didn't like how much side information was happening, and then some EQ. Moving on to plucky layer, really just like a transient layer. Your classic kind of, G house, bass house layer to kind of give that super pluck. This one is an ICANN has kick wavetable out of Serum. Kind of just messed around with that a little bit to get it to fit with the rest of the stuff. And so from there, I felt like it didn't have enough high-end air. So I went in and kind of just added another layer that had a little bit of high-end kind of airiness to it, while still having some tonality. Yeah, way pushed out on the sides. So for this one, this was a Vital resample. Just, classic, violent, angry sound, kind of completing the motif. So with the bass, it sounds like this. And then going into the little bits, bass samples, kind of just filling in the blanks, like I said. That one's cool as F. A little even, stuff like that adds a lot. This combination with a sweeping sample, little stuff like that. You just kind of place it, have fun and mess around, and which can be a little exhausting at times, but that's why we're here, to be exhausted as music producers while having fun. Laser. So that kind of wraps it up for the A section here. Kind of just carries on. Just real quick, sub is usually MIDI. I usually run my subs in MIDI, and then for this project, though, to do this tutorial, I had to bounce every bit of MIDI because my computer is not equipped for this kind of work. So new computer soon, that's for sure. And then background effects in the drop. background hype kind of stuff like that. So working our way into the B section. So right here is a vocal kind of chop thing. I kind of just went crazy with this one. Really didn't even know what I was trying to get at, but I knew I wanted something else besides like a bass sound or like a synth sound. So from there right into the B section, it's a different downbeat right here. And then a little bit of a change in melody just to keep it interesting, and then kind of goes right back into what we heard in the A section here. So from the vocal. Downbeat was your kind of classic. I took the Flava D sample, kind of messed with it a little bit, did a couple different layers through an amp. A little bit of processing, you know, some soft clip saturation, that kind of stuff. From there, the melody bass line kind of changes a little bit, which sounds like this. Yeah, it's literally like a 1 bar change up and then goes right back to the original, which is sometimes all you need. You don't need to change anything crazy and, you know, go nuts with a whole different melody, because then it doesn't feel like the same song. And then a couple different one shots, like here. Your classic wubs for house, and then going forward into the rest of it. All right, so that leads us into this transition section, and it's probably my favorite part of the track. I had a lot of fun making this vocal chop. Starting out. All right, so from the top, same groove, a little bit of fake out. A little bit of fill. I added some like just harmonic content on the sides from Kontakt, some pads and stuff, stuttery vocals. Yeah, just stuff hanging out in the background. And then into the main vocal chop. So I basically took the bass line from the first part of the drop. This layer was a little bit more pushed out to the sides. So then getting into the vocal chop, just took the lead vocal, chopped it up a little bit, did some different processing, a little bit of overdrive, some distortion. And really just messed around with it until I found something cool that worked with the rhythm of the song. I wanted something almost like a double effect on both sides to really just push it out with a chorus. Then down to my favorite layer of all this. So I kind of just duplicated it a bunch, cross faded it into each other, and got something like this. I was super hyped when that actually like fit in really well. I remember being super stoked on it. I was like, oh shit, here we go. And then I used it in this turnaround section really quick. Little backspin for the culture, you know? So that kind of wraps up the transition section. Moving into just like a empty rest section, obviously right after the drop. Filtered out the clap, took the kick out. A little bit of percussion, secondary percussion, just keeping the groove going. into pretty much the same breakdown. There's really not much different here. And then for the build up, I changed the vocal for the build a little bit, didn't repeat, and just kind of left it a little bit more open. All right, that wraps up this breakdown. Hope you guys enjoyed that, having a look at my process and how I like to do things and how I like to write music. The vision is out now. I'm gonna be doing more track breakdowns when it comes to new music and stuff like that, so keep your eyes open for that. That's all I got. Later.